Welcome to the Elevate Podcast, powered by Brydges. This is your front row seat to the stories of local leaders, both nonprofit and for-profit, who are shaping our community. Every episode brings you leadership insights, lessons from challenges, and practical strategies you can use today. And yes, we'll keep it real and have some fun along the way. If you're ready to elevate your leadership, hit subscribe and follow us on LinkedIn for updates and behind-the-scenes content. Now, let's dive in. Hey everybody, Jason Holm here with another episode of the Elevate Powered by Brydges podcast. And this one's an awful lot of fun because I happen to be someone who loves to work with wood.
Great.
Somebody who likes to build things. I also am an overgrown child and I love toys. And I got to tell you, our studio is really starting to really blossom with some of these things. But I got to tell you, this particular thing, this toy, that's the coolest, right?
Awesome.
That's one of the best things we've seen so far. So Ben, welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
You're currently with?
Wood-Mizer. So I took over as a CEO about 6 months ago, and I'm loving every minute of it.
That's all great. All right, so we'll get to Wood-Mizer part of your story. So we'll get to that, but let's go all the way back to the beginning.
Where are you from originally? I was born in Western New York, in a town called Lewiston, outside of Niagara Falls. So most people know it's close to Buffalo.
Okay.
So snowy Western New York and all those brutal winters and everything, but great people and great food, and yeah, it's a nice area to grow up.
Small town?
Yeah, smallish. Yeah, smallish. And I lived there till I was about 12 years old.
Okay.
And then I'm sorry, I lived there till I was about 8 years old. Moved around quite a few times actually as a kid, and that's actually some of the things that have shaped me.
Really? So you're there till you're 8.
Yep.
Where do you go next?
Then we moved to Rochester, New York, so about an hour and a half drive away from there. So my dad, this is a longer story, I guess, but my dad got a different job and transferred us to Rochester. So I didn't have any family in Rochester. All the family is still based in Niagara Falls, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, all that. So
sure,
we're in Rochester and making the trek back to Niagara Falls, a couple times a month to see everybody and all that. And lived in Rochester for about 5 years or so. I could have lived that was until I was about 12.
Gosh,
and then moved to Northwest Ohio, to a town called Sylvania outside of Toledo.
All right. So, but moving when you're in second grade,
Yeah.
how I mean, like you said, it kind of shaped you.
Yeah.
How tough was that being a young kid or start over from scratch?
Yeah, moves are tough on kids, and we did it a couple of times in my childhood, all for good reasons. And every place that we landed in opened up new opportunities and gave us better opportunities and just kind of improved things for us, I would say. So it was always beneficial.
Yeah.
And I've asked my kids and my wife to move locations throughout my career as well.
Yeah.
And I always go back to my experiences as a kid to maybe help guide them through it a little bit or understand what the challenges are when I ask them to do something as difficult as that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting when we talk about your career history, kind of the moves that you've made. It's going to be a lot of fun to hear that. So, all right. So New York, you end up in New York until you end up in Ohio, right? Is Ohio where you end up going to high school?
It is. Yeah. So lived in Ohio, went to school from 7th grade, graduated high school there, and got a job at Dana Incorporated, actually right out of high school doing some data entry work.
Nope. No. Yeah. So let's go through that a little bit, right? So 7th grade through high school, do you call Ohio home or is New York home? Because there's a bit of years.
I'm kind of a mutt. Okay. I've got different experiences in all these locations that really shape me.
Really? So home is kind of wherever you were with your family, not necessarily a place.
Home is where my family is, and we've been in the Fishers area going on 6 years this May.
Okay.
We moved here right at the start of the pandemic. Signed an offer letter with another company in March of 2020, moved to our new house in May of 2020 here in Fisher. So yeah, perfect time to change industries, change jobs, change states, the whole sure. But Fisher's quickly became home. The Indianapolis area quickly became home. So even during a pandemic, when it's hard to meet people, hard to get plugged in, things are closed, all the weirdness of that time, it just quickly became home. There's just something about it.
It's interesting. Like you said, those moves shaped you, and you can hear that now, this part in your career, the last 6 years, that this is home. So home wasn't necessarily a place. It was the people you were with, people and family.
Yeah. And just making the best of it and getting new experiences and going out and trying things and meeting new people. And, it has given us an opportunity in my family. And then also as a kid, to just bonding together.
Sure.
You know, when you're moving to a brand new place and you don't know anybody, you don't know anything.
Yeah.
You have to get closer and you kind of lean on each other and you grow a little bit tighter.
Yeah.
And it's been good. It's not been, super easy, but it hasn't been a big challenge either. And, I've always embraced challenges and seen those as opportunities for growth, and putting my kids in those same positions. I mean, they've taken it all in stride. Like every move they've done really well. They're outdoing kids. They get plugged in really easily. They overcome challenges. They're not afraid to try stuff. So it's shaped them too. And I don't regret any of it.
Yeah, it's terrific. It's great to hear that side of the story because a lot of folks talk about it a little bit differently, but you saw it as an opportunity.
Absolutely.
Terrific. So high school, 7th through 12th grade in Ohio, you say you end up getting a job right at high school. So as you're finishing up high school, what were you thinking was going to come next? What was career? Were you going to go the college path? Were you going to go right into the working world? What did it look like for you?
I wasn't totally sure. I would call it a bit of a non-traditional path, but I've always been a hard worker, always. So even, when I first moved to Ohio, I was 13 years old, wanting a job, wanting to make a little extra money so that I can buy cool stuff.
Yeah.
And I got a job as a caddy at a local country club and just worked that for a couple of years.
Oh, no kidding.
Until I was old enough to get a real job, I guess, on a payroll.
Yeah.
And then started bagging groceries at a Kroger and did that, for a few years through high school. But I'd always worked or done something to make a little extra cash or try something. Even when I was in New York, I was 9 years old, I think is what I was. We lived in a subdivision that was kind of on a busy street full of kids. I mean, it was a great subdivision to grow up in. But outside the subdivision, it was on a bit of a busy street. And down that street was a convenience store. And I just remember the older kids, the teenagers or whatever, they'd be able to ride their bikes or walk to this convenience store, buy all kinds of candy and slushies and all this cool stuff. And they come back and I'd be super jealous because I was too young to go do that. My mom wouldn't let me go on the busy street to go get it. So, in talking with my parents, I'm like, I think we have a problem to solve here. So my parents had a Sam's Club membership. So I remember my mom gave me a bit of a startup loan to go to Sam's and buy a bunch of candy. So I bought candy in bulk, took it home, painted up a wagon, called it the Candy Mobile, made up a price list, loaded this wagon up with candy. And then my little brother, who's about 3 years younger than me, he and I would take this wagon all around our neighborhood selling candy to all the neighborhood kids.
That's awesome.
Nice 50% margin markup. And we did that for, I don't know, 3 years or so. So kid that? Oh yeah. It was great. I mean, as a kid, you're thinking you're rich. You're thinking all kinds of money. So I bought fishing equipment, video games, bikes, the whole thing. It was cool.
You were a young Warren Buffett, right? If you story, but Buffett was like,
great,
he buys the nickel pack of 5 sticks of gum, so he sells them 2 cents a piece or whatever the case was. You're selling candy at 9.
Yeah, and pretty soon the kids weren't going to the convenience store. They're actually knocking on my door. Asking me to open up the Candy Mobile because they're wanting something after dinner or whatever that was. So it was kind of cool. So so we did that for a couple of years, and then I was talking to my dad about stuff that he did as a kid, and he gave me an idea where I'd set up a carnival in my front yard.
No kidding.
So I was 11 and 12 years old.
Okay.
And through the winter, I would build carnival games in my basement. And then in the summer, once or twice a year, I would have a carnival in my front yard. So we have this big front yard, no backyard, all big front yard. And I'd set up carnival games all throughout the front yard. And I actually hired some of my neighborhood friends to run some of the games. Even my grandma got involved. My grandma was running the little fishing game. We set up this big curtain and go to the dollar store and get all these toys and, little trinkets or whatever. Sure. She had a dowel, like a wooden dowel and a string and a little magnet or whatever. And kids would throw it over the curtain and she would hook a toy and give it back. And every game was a quarter. It was cool. No bunch of money that way, paid all the neighborhood kids, and I took my cut. It was fun.
Man, the candy dealer, also the purveyor.
Yeah, I don't know. We did that. It was fun. And like I said, gave me a little bit of extra cash. And that's what I did a lot of in the New York area.
How great, though, of your parents to be able to help foster that.
For sure.
Because a lot of folks see that as like a waste of time or whatever the case is. But, for you, this was a big deal, 9 to 12. These are formative years.
It was great. I mean, it was such a good lesson because, I never wanted for anything. I never went without, right? But if I wanted something that was a little nicer than what they were willing to pay for, then I had to earn it. And that was a good lesson to say, this is what you need to do to achieve a little bit more.
That's right.
So it was a good lesson.
Yeah, it's interesting. It'll be fun as we talk a little bit about family a little bit later as well, how maybe that's translating now
For sure.
your kiddos. All right. So high school, not sure which way you're going to go.
Yeah.
But you get a job, because you had worked, all the way through Kroger, those types of things. So you get a job right out of high school. So where are you working? What are you doing? And kind of where's your story go next?
Yeah, I wasn't 100% sure where I wanted to go. I knew I wanted to be in engineering, and I actually started out as a bioengineering major. I thought I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon or some kind of a doctor. And I thought, well, I'm pretty decent at math and figuring things out and solving problems. So it could be something in engineering that could lead me into the medical field. But I got a job at Dana right out of high school doing data entry. They were in the middle of a database upgrade where they're taking all their old drawings, manual drawings for drive shafts and axle components, and we're taking all of that information and putting in a database so that they can look up part numbers and reduce complexity and all those good things. And I just took an assignment to do data entry, so literally plugging numbers off of a drawing into a database.
Sure.
And it was supposed to be 6 months or something like that, but I just worked so hard and got it done in a couple of months.
Oh, no kidding.
And and they liked my work ethic. So then they started asking me to do some other stuff. So then I started to write formulas and do some things for a steering shaft database that would actually calculate lengths for steering shafts and make engineers' jobs easier.
Okay.
So I did that. And then fortunately, they had an opportunity for me to stay on as a co-op. And I just started working in the design room at Dana.
No kidding.
They said, well, if this kid can learn these things in the databases and we like his work ethic and all that, let's see if he can learn.
Yeah, right.
So I started working on 2D drawing changes. I sat with a designer for a couple of weeks, just kind of looked over his shoulder for a while, learned as much as I could.
Yeah.
And I started making some 2D drawing changes. And the next thing you know, I'm making 3D models and all those things. And I ended up doing that all through college.
No kidding.
And so I was taking the first year, I only went to school part-time, a couple of classes a semester because I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. And I know that I didn't really want to waste a lot of college tuition money if I wasn't really all in and my heart wasn't into it. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I took some part-time classes, and then through the work at Dana, I realized what I wanted to do, and that's mechanical engineering.
I gotcha.
So switched majors and enrolled full-time, and I ended up going to University of Toledo.
Okay.
Really good engineering school, great program, good pipeline to automotive companies as well, especially Dana. And that was kind of the start into my engineering career. But I worked full time pretty much my entire college career, so very non-traditional path.
No kidding.
I'd either work at night and go to classes during the day, or vice versa, depending on what my class schedule looked like.
And they worked with you that entire time.
They did, and they were really good to me. And not only did they work with me, my junior year, there was an opportunity for a full-time job. And I interviewed for it, and they offered me the full-time job. So I actually started, getting a real salary and real benefits and, real 401k at the age of 21 and still going to school. So that's when I started going to school more at night and working during the day. And then, through Dana's tuition reimbursement program, they actually paid for the rest of my college education. So
what a great story. I mean, what a good opportunity. A lot of folks, one of the things you said there that I think is terrific, especially for some of the younger listeners, you weren't going to go, spend a lot of money if you didn't know where your heart was going to be.
Right.
But you had a chance to go somewhere and get into Dana. I'm curious, right out of high school, getting into Dana, what did that look like? Was it an ad online? Was it, did you know somebody there? How do you?
Yeah. So fortunately, my mom actually worked in IT at a different division in Dana, and she heard they were going through the software program, and she was involved in it. And she made the connection. I interviewed, got hired, and they just kept on going. And then my mom left the company a few years later, but I continued on.
Yeah.
With Dana, probably 17 years or so.
No kidding. I talked to somebody a couple of weeks back, and one of the things that I picked up as a dad, he had said that he wasn't sure what he was going to do coming out of high school and going into college either. And his dad put him with 4 or 5 of his friends from around town, a banker, a construction guy, all these different things, and got a chance to meet some of those business leaders that his dad knew.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, he could understand what that experience might look like. He said it was a big deal, right? So you get your mom, get you into Dana, and you're there 17 years. So what's that, starting with what you did and then moving into some of that drafting, what's your career progression look like? And are you always in Ohio this entire time?
It took a couple of different turns through the career, actually. And with engineering, I wanted that to be the good base that I had in my career. I always wanted to lead people or lead a business or be an entrepreneur or something.
Okay.
Go way back to when I was a kid. That's just what's in my blood. That's what I like to do.
You were doing it naturally. And I'm curious about that, right? So back when you're 9, you're the candy dealer.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So you're selling the candy, getting kids hooked and making some money. Was that kind of just something that came to you naturally? I mean, was your dad an entrepreneur, mom entrepreneur? Obviously, she was in IT, but was that just something that was just natural to you?
Just kind of natural. It was an idea that we had, just kind of talking through the problem.
Yeah.
But no, my parents were not entrepreneurs at all. My mom was in IT and my dad was a ceramic engineer, which I still don't quite know what that means. And then he got his MBA and he got into sales and marketing and a little bit of operations later in his career. But, and that's another interesting thing too. I got to see a lot of their path and hard work and sacrifice and kind of delaying immediate success or gratification for what could be much bigger later on. If you just put the work in, you build the foundation.
Yeah, sure.
I have very unique experience and I guess ability to say that I saw both of my parents graduate college.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they went to school later in their careers.
They did. Okay. They did. So when I was young, my father went into all the family trade, which was pipe fitting. So my grandfather, my uncles, some of my cousins, they were pipe fitters. And that's just kind of what you did, right? That was the career path. And my dad did that for a number of years. And it can be a dirty, dangerous job, working in the elements. Things are hot.
Yeah, sure.
Crowded spaces, all those things. And I think at one point in time, he was on a layoff period and just decided this wasn't really for him anymore. And, he said, I got to do something different.
Yeah.
So he decided to go back to college full time. So here he is with 2 young boys.
Yeah.
And a wife and a house.
Yeah.
And he bets on himself and my mom supports him and says, let's go do this. So he actually went while we were living in Lewiston, New York, he went to a school further away in New York called Alfred University. And he did that for a few years, getting his ceramic engineering degree.
No kidding.
So Sunday afternoon, he'd hug us goodbye, go to school full time for 4.5 days and come back Friday afternoon, be with us the whole weekend and do it all over again.
Wow.
Until he was done.
Wow. What a story.
So yeah, I mean, like I said, he bet on himself and we were all behind him 100%. I was too young to really know the magnitude of it. It was probably 5 or 6 when he started doing it. But yeah, him getting his ceramic engineering degree and then being an engineer in a manufacturing plant is what took us from Lewiston to Rochester.
Yeah.
That was the first big move.
Wow.
Yeah. And then he got his MBA while we were in Rochester. And then once he got done with that, took a job in sales and marketing, and that's what moved us to Ohio.
Gotcha.
And then, once he got more established and I started to grow up a little bit and my brother started to grow up a little bit and get a little more independence, that's when my mom just said, it's my turn. So I'm going to go to school. So she did. So then she went to Bowling Green State University and got her degree in computer science. So awesome. I remember very vividly as a young kid watching both of them graduate.
Yeah.
It's kind of an interesting, I'd be able to say.
Yeah, it generally doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't. But, it gave me a really good perspective on hard work and sacrifice. And just do what you need to do to give your family a better life.
What a great basis to be able to grow up in. That's awesome. So 17 years at Dana, you knew you wanted to be entrepreneurial. You wanted to lead people, you said.
Yeah.
So where's that journey take you? Like, what do you end up doing there?
Yeah, a number of different jobs, and I always felt that if I wanted to lead people, I needed to educate myself and get enough experience to be able to help them, be able to guide and share some of my challenges, share some of my experiences. So I felt that if I'm going to be on top, I'm going to be my strongest if I build a wide base. So I took a lot of different assignments, a lot of lateral moves, a lot of projects, a lot of, just different experiences to build that nice wide base so that as I grow and go up that corporate ladder, I'm a much stronger leader. So I did a number of different jobs, whether it was applications engineering or sales engineering, program management, did operations for a while. Had the really unique experience of leading a project to build a manufacturing facility in Toledo from the ground up.
Oh, wow.
So so that was really cool. That was an interesting story. I was actually working in operations as the operations manager for our drive shaft division at Dana for the Fort Wayne facility.
Okay.
Really massive 1,000,000 square foot facility. About half of it was on the drive shaft side, and that's the part that I oversaw. And I was doing that for about a year. And one day the VP of operations comes to grab dinner with me, and my boss is the director of ops, and that wasn't really out of the ordinary. It was nothing new. He was a mentor of mine. I had a good relationship with him. But one day he came and he invited me into my boss's office, and my boss is sitting there on the other side of his desk, and the VP of ops is sitting on the other side of the desk, and they invite me into the office, this big office. Think about like 100-year-old manufacturing facility. This really big cavernous, plant manager, director of ops office. And I walk in, and my boss had this button underneath his desk that you see in movies that you just push that button and the door closes behind you. So I walked in and I hear this door close behind me. I'm like, this isn't just some ordinary dinner, is it?
Yeah.
And I sit down, and the VP of ops is like, got something to tell you about, but before I tell you, I need you to sign this. And he slid an NDA across the desk and signed the NDA. And he told me about the project, and it was a really cool project. It was building a manufacturing facility in Toledo on the original site where the Jeep Wrangler was being built.
Oh, wow.
And the new building would be from ground up. It was a spec building that was 100,000 square feet, and the job was to build it to 300,000 square feet. All the manufacturing equipment, people, the processes, all those things, and get it up and running for the next generation Jeep Wrangler, which is the new Wranglers that you see driving around.
Yeah, sure.
So really cool experience to build something and to lead people and to do something that really hadn't been done in the company in a very long time. It's not often that you're building a manufacturing facility. So it was a cool experience. Got to work a little bit in understanding how public and private funding and money and all that works out. And it was really cool. Learned a lot.
Yeah. So you're in Fort Wayne. By the way, I love the button under his desk to be able to close the door. Yeah. It probably makes you a little bit nervous as to what's going on. Is this good or is this bad or
Not an ordinary dinner.
yeah, this could be good. Could be bad. I don't know what it is yet, but I know it's something special. That's awesome. All right. So from Fort Wayne, you pick up and go back to
Ohio.
At this point, had you been married at this point with kids?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Okay. I've been married. Got married pretty young, actually. I got married my senior year of college. So I still had another year of college to finish out with my wife. My wife and I actually met when we were barely 18 years old. I think I was 18. She was 17, seniors in high school. We met at Kroger, actually.
Was she working there?
Also, kind of. So I was working customer service in the front end. So I was kind of like the bagger supervisor, cashier supervisor, counting all the money, all those things at the front end. And I'm standing behind the counter one day, and kind of in the back, and the HR leader, who's one of the assistant managers, standing next to me, and comes this girl, and she goes to the front, and the HR manager walks around to see what she wants, and they're talking for a couple of minutes. Girl walks out, HR manager comes back, and just kind of look at her like, what she want, and she's like, she wants a job. I was like, hire her. So that's the story of how my wife and I got the opportunity to meet. So a couple months later, she started, and I probably asked her out like as soon as I could, like a week after she started. And we've been married a little over 20 years, and together for 26 years.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. You and I talked about that story before, and my wife and I actually met probably in middle school. Started when I was senior, she was a junior, and
That's awesome.
married to 21, 28 years later and all that kind of stuff. So I just don't know that story out the direction anymore. And
Yeah, it's a little more rare than it was in
the old days.
Yes, yeah. So we're blessed with 3 awesome kids, and yeah, it's great. And they've been with me through all of it, along the ride and the whole thing. Super supportive. Yeah, great. Yeah.
So Fort Wayne, going back to Ohio, right? So now you're opening this new facility over there, and you're getting a chance now. Because is the role like a general manager role? What's the role?
There's like a senior operations program management role, kind of like a hybrid thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you get a chance to oversee all of this,
Mhm.
and now you're back in Ohio. And so how does that go? And then where does the story take you next?
Yeah. Ton of challenges. Did it for, I don't know, 3-4 years, something like that.
Okay.
Learned a lot about what it takes to build a team from nothing. I think the other thing that I learned through that exercise was, I'm very willing, and I will always bet on myself, and I'm very willing to accept challenges no matter how long the odds are or the likelihood of failure versus success. If that ratio is off, yeah, okay. But the thing that surprised me was how different that mentality is to other people. Like there were some people that I really wanted to go get and be on my team to help me that weren't willing to take the risk. Weren't willing to be the first one in.
Okay.
So that was kind of surprising to me that not everybody had that same level of confidence or approach or willingness to take a risk.
Sure.
That was just a different experience for me, I would say.
Yeah, of course, it's a little bit different, I imagine. And so you end up over there 3-4 years in Ohio. Somehow, though, you end up in 2020 coming to Indiana, right?
Yeah.
During the pandemic. So what's it look like from leaving Ohio before you get over here to Fishers?
Sure. So at Dana, I'd been there a number of years, and it was pretty much all I knew.
Yep.
I had one little short stint at another company doing sales engineering down in Charlotte, actually.
Okay.
But aside from that, it was really all Dana, and that's all I knew.
Yep.
And I felt like if I really am serious about getting this nice wide base of experiences, and I really am serious about climbing the ladder, then I should probably test myself. Can I be successful in other companies, or is this all I know? Can I bring my experiences and apply them to other companies, or what can I learn from other companies?
Yeah.
So a recruiter contacted me with an opportunity to go be a director of program management for a company called Fram Group. If you know Fram filters. Yeah, sure. It's Garlow Flows and all this. Yeah. So, and that was still in town, Toledo area, and had a chance to be a director. And like I said, go apply my learnings and my skills and experiences to another company and see if I can be successful. So took that chance, did not have to relocate the family. So that was another, that was a semester way to say. So did that for a couple of years. PE ended up buying that company, took it in a different direction. Wasn't really something that I was interested in doing long term. And a recruiter happened to call me with a pretty similar opportunity for a company called Dormicaba here in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
So that was probably November of 19 that those conversations started. And by March of 2020, it was signing the offer letter and taking a bet. So yeah, it was a Saturday in March of 2020. I signed the offer letter, sent it all in. And I think it was like the following Tuesday where the whole world closed, shut down. Everybody's going home, and the world was turned on its head. And my wife and I just looked at each other. I'm like, we're still going to do it.
Yeah.
Like we're still taking this leap of faith and just, we're doing it.
Yeah.
So we did.
That's awesome. So you end up over here in 2020 during the pandemic. So what's you're at Dormicaba, right? You're there.
Yep.
And by this time you've led some teams, you've opened a facility, like you said, this wide base. I like your notion, that wide base, right? To bet on yourself a little bit. But ultimately you end up at Wood-Mizer as a CEO. Right. So how does that transpire? How do you end up finding your way over to Wood-Mizer and getting into that role?
Yeah. So at Dormicaba, the way the business is structured, my last role, I was the senior executive in North America. I kind of hit the top that I could do, aside from, moving to Switzerland.
And no kidding. So you're running the United States operation, for example, right? And the next step could be moving to Switzerland. Right.
Yeah. And it wasn't really something that I saw myself doing, especially in this stage in life. So I kind of knew that I either, stay in this role for however long, that it makes sense for my family, which my youngest is only in seventh grade. So it's going to be a while.
Yeah.
Or if I'm ready to take the next step and I want to, move forward, then I'm going to have to unfortunately look elsewhere.
Yeah.
And it was a tough decision because, we've got a great team that, I was surrounded by, and sure, had the ability to add some people to that team that I really enjoyed working with. So it was a tough decision, but ultimately a recruiter presented a really good opportunity at Wood-Mizer, and again, didn't have to relocate. That was not going to be an option for me. It was relocating right now at this point in my life, and just a great opportunity to be CEO.
It's terrific to hear. I think a lot of times people will have some opportunities presented to them, and like you said, they'll tend to pass.
Yeah.
Or they don't want to be the first one in. But you can just hear in your journey, and it starts back when you're 9, I think, right? That you're willing to go bet on yourself. But then you've also wanted, you wanted to be entrepreneurial. You knew you wanted to lead people. You knew eventually you wanted to do that. And so if that's where your cup's going to get full, working at a job is not going to do that for you, right? And so but that's always it's a hard decision for people. They get comfortable, sure, right? And they get comfortable. So you bet on yourself. You take a role. Is it for the CEO of Wood-Mizer? Okay, so you go in, interview, when you land the role. And so how long have you been with Wood-Mizer?
It's been 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah, it's been great. I've loved every minute of it. And when it's been a while in terms in the making, a lot of long discussions, long interview process. So it's good that they did their diligence and all that, and I got to do my diligence on the company as well. So it was really good. Like I said, I've enjoyed every minute of it. When I first was presented the role, I didn't know anything about sawmilling or the industry, or anything like that. So I had to try and quickly get up to speed, and making sure that I lean on the people around me to help educate me on the industry. But like I said, it's been a great 6 months, but it's gone fast. Some days feels like yesterday I started, and other days it feels like I've been there for years. And that's just a testament to how great the people are and the culture and the willingness they have to, get me up to speed and help me out. It's been great. And you mentioned the entrepreneurial aspect of it. I think that's one of the most fun things about this role is with our size of company and where we are in the journey and in the history of the company. I think we're at a really good point where we can, take some opportunities and transform the business and really set ourselves up for this next phase of growth with Wood-Mizer. That's all. It's fun.
So for those that don't know, obviously they've got a toy up there, sawmills, that kind of stuff. But tell us about Wood-Mizer. What do you guys do?
Yeah, so we make sawmilling equipment, accessories and blades that go for it as well. And it's everything from, roughly $3,000 hobby sawmill all the way up to multi-million-dollar, highly customized heavy industrial solutions.
Sure.
So what we got up on the shelf there is an LT40, and that's kind of like the go-to when it comes to sawmilling. It's that lighter, higher volume application sawmill, and you're just getting out of the consumer area and you want to make a little money with it, or you want to, throw a little more volume through it. But it's great. I mean, we really serve the entire, wood processing industry when it comes to sawmilling. So it's great. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. So serve the entire, all across the United States, but serving clients all over the globe.
All over the world. So our headquarters is right here in Indianapolis, and we've been here a little over 40 years. That's when the company was established. We have significant operations in a European headquarters in Poland.
Okay.
And then we have branches and dealers all around the world, Australia, South Africa, Sri Lanka, South America, and Chile, all over. So it's quite a presence. I mean, it's a global product.
Yeah.
I think our dealer network is probably the best in the industry, I should say, in terms of service and support and all the things, right?
Okay.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I think the cool thing is the ability to serve this wide range of customers.
Yeah.
Everybody from a hobbyist who's got a really small mill, relatively sitting in his driveway or in his backyard that wants to make a little project, to somebody that's building a cabin, or to somebody that's, sawing lumber on the weekend to make some extra money. It's all the way up to full on businesses. I mean, we do a really good industrial solution. And some of it has some sustainability aspects to it as well, which are responsible deforestation. And, we have another project that we just went live with where they'll take a raw log or timber and goes into this massive system, I'll say, and into this building. And it creates wood shavings for poultry farms and horse farms, and then also creates pallets for shipment of their poultry product.
Yeah.
With zero waste through the entire system.
No TFA.
Makes shavings for their own poultry. They're able to sell the shavings for the rest of the industry. Custom cuts all the wood.
Yeah.
Automatically makes the pallets, stacks the pallets, and they can use it for shipping as well as their poultry production.
Man, that's
zero waste.
That is cool.
So it's fantastic.
That's true. Yeah, obviously only 6 months in, right? Big global company, dealers all over the world. Have you been any place yet? Have you been to Poland, any of those places yet? Do you have plans to travel to go serve the company?
Yeah, I've been to quite a few places domestically here already. I've been to Poland twice. Okay. I've got plans for much further away here later in the year. But yeah, it's been good. And we've got a good team really everywhere. Okay. It's hard, I would say, to get a consistent culture when you're a global company and spread so widely. But when I meet people here in Indy or on Oregon or Georgia or New York or over in Poland, or I talk to the team in South Africa or South America, everybody just really loves this company and wants to see it succeed. They're all no kid. They're all bought in. It's something about the industry and the camaraderie and this familial aspect to it where everybody just feels, well,
That's it. That's interesting. So we normally I'll go into technology, talk about that, but let's skip tech for a minute. Let's talk about culture.
Yeah.
And because when you think about, culture and you think about community and those types of things, community is, who you're serving, perhaps some nonprofits, but also the culture. It's always interesting when you've got somebody, you're headquartered here in Indy and you got a good chunk of your organization here, and then people spread everywhere else, right? But Wood-Mizer is a brand. Wood-Mizer is a company. It's like you said, it's kind of the Kleenex on the industry, right? But that comes down to culture.
Right.
So I know only 6 months in and you're experiencing some of it, but how are you continuing that culture, and any thoughts on how you're kind of building that brand across your own team, across the globe, basically?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing I do anytime I take a new role is I put on my historian hat and I try to learn as much as I possibly can about the company, where it started to where we are today. Because I think a lot of figuring out where we need to go in the future is figuring out where we've been, so that I don't repeat mistakes or I don't take a wrong turn or ignore the learnings of the past. So I did a lot of listening. I've done everything from big town halls with Q&A sessions to more targeted small group roundtables of 6 to 8 people. I get to 7 or 8 of those sessions, one-on-ones, just impromptu conversations, out traveling and meeting people, just to learn and listen and figure out what's important to people.
Yeah.
What opportunities do they see? What things are we able to compromise on? What can't we compromise on? Like, what are the givens? What are the things that make Wood-Mizer so special and so great?
Sure.
What are the things that maybe we've kind of steered away with in the last several years and maybe we come back to? Or what are these opportunities that maybe we haven't quite capitalized on? Just all these things. Because when I want to put a strategy forward, I want to make sure that people have contributions to that and they see some of the feedback, some of the input come to life in that strategy.
Yeah.
Because once you get this strategy feeling like it's theirs and more buy-in, you're going to go so much faster and so much better because you've got that built-in support, that built-in buy-in.
Yeah.
And then for me, it's all about communication moving forward, being as transparent as I possibly can on the why. Why are we doing things? And I think that has a double meaning, really. It's why are we making the decisions that we're doing? So then they start making sense and people, like I said, get more bought in. But then also, why are we doing this in general? Like, why are we in business?
Yeah.
And it's what does our product do for people? And it helps hobbyists really show their creativity and develop something cool, or it helps people support a livelihood or create a business, and it helps people solve real problems and real challenges. And I think that's just so powerful and so awesome.
Yeah.
And it's important for all of our employees to really understand what it is we do, because you can lose sight of that when you're sitting at a desk and you're just looking at spreadsheets, or you're looking at a PowerPoint presentation, or you're looking at some financials. you forget why you're actually doing it or what it actually means. So I talk a lot about the customer and the product and the benefits of it. What are we really doing for people? And it's important that we never lose sight of that.
Yeah, great answer, by the way. And so you can hear it just in the story as we've talked here for the last, half hour, 40 minutes. It's just, you can hear your leadership style. And what I really took away from that is you listened for a long time. History. I'm going to study the history. What have we done before? Right? Where are we going to go in the future? Become a historian of the business, but then also setting the direction. This is where we're going, and this is why we're going there. And yeah, at the end of the day, you guys have cool saws that take big pieces of wood and make smaller pieces. Oh yeah, right? Super cool. But at the end result, there are people who leverage those things that have a business that supports their families and their organization, that supports their clients. And all of these things are what happened because you and your team put this product out there. And so it's great to hear that, kind of how you've done that so far. And I know also, I think here locally, you and your wife are beginning to get a little bit involved with one of the nonprofits as well, right?
Yeah, we're starting to get plugged in, and we did a lot more of this type of work when we were in Ohio. We were a little more established, kind of knew where to go, had a little more time on our hands too. We're really heavily involved into youth sports. We've done a little bit with youth sports here, but as the kids are growing up, that's not really fitting us anymore. But my mom actually battled cancer 2 years ago. And she's a survivor. She had ovarian cancer, so she's clean for about a year now of the cancer. So that's great.
Good to hear.
And we're just starting to get more involved in that. And IU has a great cancer research foundation. So we've been getting involved with that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Terrific. Good to hear. So when you're thinking about community, it's great to hear how you think about that, how you're building community for your business and the culture. But also when you think about it, I mean, you guys are producing products that are, cutting trees and doing different things. And a lot of folks think of that as not being technical or technology, but I'm assuming you guys are really moving in a direction with technology.
Yeah.
So what's going on in your business and how's tech evolving?
Yeah, it's been interesting. Some of the stuff that we're doing on the industrial side, it's not unique necessarily to us, but when you're talking about optimizing a log, you get this log and it's not a perfect, piece of wood. Surely it's not uniform. There's a lot of defects. There's a lot of changes in geometry. So the challenge is how do I get the most out of this log? How can I increase my productivity? What are the most optimal cuts and sizes that I need to do? How do I need to orient it? So incorporating, optimizing technology, scanning technology into our equipment has been huge. Like I said, it's not unique to Wood-Mizer. We partner with a lot of people to get this done. But that's definitely a way that technology's helped with the sawmilling industry.
Okay.
And I think the unique thing that we're looking at now is how can I take this heavy industrial optimization and kind of scale that down for people that are in more of the lighter industrials. Yeah, sure, it get more acceptable to people, or more available to people.
How do you shrink that technology, right, to be able to take it down to the smaller,
make it more accessible?
Yeah.
And everybody's talking about AI, so there is some AI involved in that. There's grading technology as well that we incorporate with our more industrial equipment. So when you're talking specifically on hardwood, typically you've got people at the end of the line that physically look at these boards and grade it, and that's how they determine the level of quality wood that's coming off. But there's technology now that we're incorporating into our equipment that can do that automatically. It can look for knots, it can look for defects, it can look for splits, it can look for all these different things within the boards. And I think it's just going to continue to evolve and move even quicker over the years. I mean, AI is the biggest topic, and we're developing our strategy relative to AI. And I've tasked the team with looking at three things. One, how do we need to be using AI on our business operations? So how do we need to be functioning more efficiently?
Yeah.
How do we incorporate AI more efficiently into our equipment and serve customers in that regard? And then lastly, but certainly not least, is the cybersecurity aspect of it. I mean, I'm sure that we're well aware of all the threats that AI brings to us. And you look at what Wood-Mizer is as a company, you talked about it, we're global. So that means global exposure.
That's right.
And dealing with a lot of people in a lot of different countries, and consumers and customers trust us with their data.
Yeah.
So it's not just our data, it's our customers' data. So it's all these different things wrapped into this big, huge topic of cybersecurity. And it's, I'd say one of the three areas that we need to be looking at in terms of AI.
Yeah, I'll tell you, a great answer, by the way. A lot of folks talk about efficiencies and gains and those things. You get it. But there's also a lot of danger. There's a lot of folks out there trying to do things that aren't necessarily great for your business.
Right.
And so guarding against those is terrific. It's great you brought up cybersecurity. And so as we think about obviously moving on in your career here, being in Fishers, being here 6 years, married a young lady that you met at Kroger, and you mentioned family. So let's talk a little bit about family. So kids for you guys.
Kids, yeah. This is a really big year in the Brydges household. So I've got 3 kids, a daughter and 2 sons. Daughter's 17, the boys are 16 and 13. So I got a house full of teenagers and have a fridge that we're just constantly filling with food. So yeah. But this year, so just a couple of days ago, my 16-year-old son officially got his driver's license. So he's out there driving on his own. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So he's doing great. Raised the blood pressure and the stress levels in me a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
We got that going on. And then obviously my daughter has an 18th birthday coming up. So that's big, and high school graduation. And then she's off to IU here in August. Yeah, it's just a lot going on in our house.
A lot of going on with the kids. You said the youngest was 13.
Yeah, he's 13. He goes to Love and Life. He's a 13-year-old kid.
Okay.
Likes to play golf with me, have fun with his buddies. Yeah, he's doing great.
Not a bad life. All right. So before we close out, though, let's just talk about fun. Obviously, we talked a little about kids there. So if you're not at Wood-Mizer and enjoying, doing that type of stuff, what are you guys doing for fun?
Yeah, we just like spending time together. We're kind of a sports family. All the kids that had sports interests. So my daughter played soccer for a number of years, so I was always at the soccer field watching her on trips, and that was always great. I mean, just having some good windshield time with your teenage daughter, just talking about everything. So that was an awesome experience. And now I'm getting that same experience with my son, who's 16, playing rugby. So we're going, all over the place for rugby now, and he's loving that. And he has this unique ability to pick sports I know nothing about. He did lacrosse before, and he did swimming for a summer, and now he's into rugby, and I've got to learn all these new rules. Yeah, sure. New terminology and everything. So it's cool. It's a learning experience for me. I get to meet a lot of great people. I get to watch him do something he really enjoys. So that's awesome. And then my son, like I said, he's tried a bunch of different things too. He's played soccer. He's played baseball when he was really, really young. He does some intramural basketball, and now he's playing golf with me. So we do that. I'm a huge Buffalo Bills fan because I grew up in New York. I would have to be.
Yeah.
And my kids have never lived in New York. My wife's never lived in New York, but I've successfully brainwashed all 4 of them to be Buffalo Bills fans.
Oh, no kidding.
So it's great.
You're living here.
Yeah, they go through all the same heartache that I've here, just as if they lived there. So man. Sundays during football season, it's kind of what we do. That's family time. Yep. It's time to kind of rest from the week that we've had and get ready for the week ahead. So we usually make a bunch of food or get some good takeout or something like that, and we sit in front of the TV for a few hours and we watch football. So, well, you've had a really good quarterback for a while. We could use one of those. He saved our franchise. Yeah. He saved your franchise. I'd like to see him. Not an exaggeration.
Yeah, I'd like to see him win. He seems like a good kid, and he's a lot of fun to watch as well. And
so he's fantastic.
It'd be great to watch him win.
Yeah, but we've adopted the Colts too, so we can honestly say we have 2 teams in our house now. So it's great.
Yeah, I think everybody, if you live here, you got to like the Colts a little bit. They're lovable. Hopefully they'll play well next year. Daniel Jones will come back. And Ben, thank you. A couple of takeaways that I picked up, right? So one, I think you were the first person who was 9 that started selling something as additions, right? That's actually a super cool story, but you can see the entrepreneurial spirit started at a young age. I liked your concept of having kind of that wide base, right? That's an interesting concept that a lot of folks maybe you should think a little bit about. And then also the idea that, you wanted to lead people, you wanted to be an entrepreneur, and you were willing to go out and to do those things because that's what's going to fill up your cup.
Sure.
And it circles back, you also had an experience, watching your parents, graduate from college, right? And seeing that and kind of having that be part of your story that you had a chance to experience at a young age. And then of course, a little older with your mom. Those foundational things, you can just see how that's kind of evolved
for sure,
over time. And so thank you, man. Congratulations on the role at Wood-Mizer. Enjoy that role. And I appreciate you being on the show.
Thanks for having me. It's been great. Yeah. Love it.